Thank you guys for joining me again this evening, just to have a conversation about our experiences as Black women, our connection with nature. I'm a part of the Afro Futurism collective for American Bird Conservancy, where we are working to reimagine what nature looks like through the lens of Afrofuturist lens, and what that looks like, I feel like, comes perfectly for Black women and how we are inherently connected to nature, and the experiences that nature has and how we are directly aligned with them mentally, physically, spiritually. So I just wanted to start this conversation, and I'll pass it over to you, Sharon, to ground us with the space for this poem, and then we're just going to chat.
Thank you, Germani. I'll be reading an excerpt from this amazing book called Been Outside, Adventures of Black Women, Non-Binary, and Gender Nonconforming People in Nature. This poem is titled Black Women in Nature, Black Women and Nature by Joelle Jenkins. Black women in nature, we came to create, and there's nothing greater. One could say it's innate, moving like goddesses, with their hair emulating tree canopies, melanin holding the richness of earth, and an aura mirroring nature's versatility. Black women and nature, a combination that nourishes the mind, body, and soul. A powerful essence more valuable than gold. Nature gives us the autonomy that we need to sustain ourselves, to help us succeed. Farming, hunting, gardening, and more, woven into our historical fabric, a crucial part of our timeline that will not be ignored. Black women in nature, the rebirth of a movement, rightfully reclaiming our space, a much-needed improvement. We are unstoppable, for the storms we endure just make our roots stronger. As much as others deny it, we are essential like water. Black women and nature, a coexistence that speaks our truth, bringing peace and healing to our communities through and through. And there's no need to prove ourselves. The evidence is apparent, undoubtedly influencing everything we touch. Do you feel us omnipresent?
Thank you, Sharon. Any reflections that originally come up for that poem at all for anybody?
I don't know why the part about our hair sort of mimicking tree canopy just stuck in my ear like that. Just a little bit of a personal thing. I had recently started just doing nothing to my hair. That's not what's happening today. But and it just, the way that it sat on my head, the way that it curled, the way that it held flowers, it sort of inspired me to do a bit of a photo shoot that tied my hair to natural systems, to meadows and to grasses and to just the sort of the natural ecosystems a little bit. And that just reminded me of that in a way that just popped into my head on its own. And then this popped into someone else's head. And I think we're all seeing the connections in our own lives to our bodies, our skin, our hair, and the ways that is sort of mimicked in the natural systems. So anyway, that just popped in my head. And then one more thing about we are essential. I feel like in this current moment, I don't know how much we're trying to get into politics, but
it's fine. Go for it, whatever.
It feels like in this moment of erasure of Black people, of Black women, of environmental justice, of like climate issues, of this intersection of race and environment, that idea that we as Black women and nature are both essential just rung in my ears as something that cannot be erased, something that should not be erased, something that is more important to elevate than ever. So thank you for reading that.
No,
yes, of course. I love the ending of "we are omnipresent," because I feel so often that we have to show up in so many different ways, and people don't even know we're there until we're gone. They don't know the whole scope of what we do. And I think about that all the time with nature, right? Like how many people live in this world and think somehow they are separate from the benefits of the trees and the rivers and the air and even fire and all these things that connect us and that we need and that influence us. They're here, they're protecting us, but we see it as only a resource. And when it's not a resource to us, we ignore it. Or when it becomes annoying to us, Like if a river floods, then we pay attention and we see it as a problem. And how many times I think of in my journey as a Black person, like, okay, everyone loves you there and loves your energy until you actually start saying what needs to be said. And then it's like, oh, it's too much. No, we'd like to go back to just your beneficial invisibility.
I think a parallel with that, both Cameron's point and Lydia's point, is the erasure of history as well as the habitat destruction we're seeing in the natural landscape. I think there's so many services that are provided by the trees, the bushes, different levels of ecosystems, like you're saying, into this current climate of we're erasing a lot of the recognition of contributions of these natural resources as well as the Black women to natural resources. And so similar to your hair photography project, something that I've personally done to kind of celebrate the history of the Black women in conservation and natural resources is just kind of tell hidden stories, hidden figures, right, in natural resources. So there's about 8 women I kind of highlight right now through different kind of classroom presentations. And their stories, again, are not in history books, but they're women that persevered through the early 19th century, 20th century, of course, that went on to become museum curators, scientists, biologists, studying insects to corals, to soils. And as a scientist myself, I really get inspiration from knowing that they blazed the trail before me.
Yeah.
And when I experience self-doubt, I'm like, they did this, I can do it, I should tell their stories.
Yes, I love that. I think it's so important for us to like honor the people that came before us. And I think so naturally as Black people in the environmental space, we do that without fault. Like it's always going to be somebody that's paying homage to what came before us. And I think that's a part of just our overall history, and then also us reconnecting to that ancestral knowledge about nature. There are so many different things that we don't even realize are like different instances of us preserving nature or us practicing sustainability within our households, within our lineage, within our culture that people do not recognize. And I feel like that is another value and just like a sentiment of how us as Black women, we're like inherently connected to that. Like whether we realize it's something that's passed on intentionally or if it's just like a learned practice, us as Black women are able to feed back into nature in an authentic way, whether we mean to or not, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like how throughout the poem, kind of the length of the poem, it touches through like the connections that everyone will have to nature. I feel like a lot of times you don't think that deep about it. So you're like, oh, that's not my connection. But like it goes over many connections that people can highlight.
Well, I see each of you as like future hidden figures because, I mean, we've worked together in different capacities or trying to work together in new capacities within this work. And I think it's so diverse in all the ways and the spaces that you can show your light. So I would love if each of you would be able to just share like what was your kind of entry point to nature, maybe your first experience in nature that you can remember. Describe it in the best way that you can with all the details and the feelings. And then maybe in the next question, I'll ask you to connect that to kind of like, how are you where you are right now? Like, how has that kind of pushed you? Where's that drive come from that first touch and that experience, and also within your identity into doing this work and pushing it forward? And I'll let you sit with that for a second. So whoever's ready, you can hop in.
It's hard to choose one.
Choose
first,
one,
right?
I'll start. I can start with one, as you guys can think. I always am hesitant to give this example because it's technically in a pool, but I think of water and just like that relationship. And I learned how to swim at a very, very young age. I think I was like 3 years old or something or so. And I remember my mom I would learn how to swim, but at the end of the pool day, she would like push me around and kind of help me float. And she'd sing to me, I love you, I love you, I love you, Marnie Moo. And that's my little nickname. But that was like one of my first, I think, experiences where I remember just being so connected to the nurturing aspects of nature, not only because it was with my mother, but also because how you feel when the water kind of encapsulates your whole body and the warmth that you feel when you're submerged. And that is like, I love water. I'm a water baby in a sense of I feel safe there as much as I don't like, other types of boats. I feel very safe in water, and I feel like I'm able to flow and I'm able to move, and I think about myself and my body and how it's able to move and flow in that same way. Yeah. It's my first little instance.
I don't have one because I never have just one. My memories are so prolific in nature. Some of the things that I think of is like going fishing at my church's pond with my father and my mother reading a book. I think about us biking down this trail to this tributary from the Potomac River, and we didn't see anyone. And so we started calling it the secret place, and we would go and get in our bathing suits and like jump from rocks and well, we didn't know how to swim, but we could like doggy paddle and walk around in this offshoot of the creek, and the stream bed beneath my feet, and the warmth of the water, and just the fun and the exploration and excitement of finding something new. And I think because I have so many of these diverse outdoor experiences, I hated gardening. That was not fun. But I think it drives me to really I want to go. I want to find something. I don't need to know the answer. I don't have to know a destination, but I want to go find something new. I almost never go back to the same place because I want to go find more new things and more new experiences and more new magical places to enjoy. And it is something that drives every part of my life.
That's great examples. I was reflecting on little childhood, Sharon and suburban Baltimore. And thinking about after a rainstorm, you see a lot of worms pop up on the ground, the sidewalks, and the edge of our grass in our front yard. And my first memories are just playing with these worms or ladybugs. They're just little insects that are kind of just buzzing around that were not bees or spiders, but the friendlier insects in my opinion. And I remembered maybe not recognizing back then, but thinking about it now, the diversity of insects in general, how they're all so different. And I think biodiversity is really important to ecosystems as well as the world, as well as diversity of people. So I think thinking about the attributes of a worm versus a ladybug versus a lightning bug, they're also different, but each have a certain role to play in their, a niche is what it's called. And I won't get into how it affects my work today, but I think subconsciously I really love seeing the diversity of nature, of wildlife in particular. And that's kind of an early memory I have from when I was a little girl.
Also worm girl here.
Worm girl?
Yeah.
Can go next. Because actually, I think similarly, and I'm going to be honest, I am not good at memories. So they're all little snippets. I'm a very visual person, and so as I think back, I'm I remember this very specific instance of a butterfly crossing my path, or I used to spend a lot of time just laying in the grass, very deliberately closing my eyes to the sun, knowing that when I got back up and opened my eyes, all of the colors were going to be 10 times more vibrant, and just taking a sweep of the landscape like that, with that the bright greens and the bright blues and the bird song and all of those pieces coming together all at once on you was just so relaxing and immersive, and was one of those folks that I don't know if I want to step further. I picked up a lot of dead birds. I was very fascinated by birds, and I picked up a lot of toads and frogs and would shove them in my brother's face and would just generally be one of those obnoxious kids. And I still go out and I pick up those toads and I pick up those worms and I find the dead birds and I still do all those things. My brother called me a sociopath, but
do you still shove it in his face too?
I've stopped doing that.
Self-control.
Okay. But I think that was all out of this curiosity. I was very fascinated with the way that these organisms worked. I was very interested in ecology and ecosystem science as a child. I was always going to my science teacher when I found something or I had a question. I'd sit on the bus and I'd be how does the weather work? And I would write it down in a notebook and take it to my science teacher and be like, how does the weather work? And she would give me the answers and I would jot down all my notes. And I'm rambling a little bit, but the reason I bring it to this curiosity piece was because all of these sort of visions and pieces bring me back to the same place, the same experiences of like laying in the grass and having that sweeping view of the butterflies, of the toads. All of them bring me back to my family's farm, which is something I'm going to be bringing up a ton during this conversation. It's this place that has been in my family for 100 years now. It's been passed down through the women of my family for 100 years now. And I have so many memories of going out there gardening with my grandmother because I love gardening. I'm going to counter.
To each their own.
Going out there and searching for animals and looking for paw prints and trying to identify things and picking up the worms and really like looking at all of the clover on the ground and thinking about the nitrogen fixing properties of some of the things that we were planting in the soil and just all of the different like pieces kind of connecting in this one spot that I know that my ancestors were caring for so many generations. And I think that sort of tied this idea of ancestry and love and care for land to this fascination with ecosystems and with natural systems. So that's why that was a little disparate, but again, my memories are like a flash here, a flash there. But they paint a picture of this same shared space that I'm just really proud of.
Yeah, I'm excited to come back to the farm.
I know.
I think like everyone shared, it kind of started, you know, with childhood and just like being outside playing, lightning bugs, and like just from like discovery and challenges. From like climbing trees and stuff, I would say, and just being able to look at nature through like the lens of what's possible, kind of, and what's out there for you. So yeah, that's how I would like sum it up. I feel like everyone kind of touched on that same type of experience.
Love it. I still climb trees, so
I
much
wish
like your
I had to get that far.
Just the lightning bugs thing. I don't know why. I just wanted, because, and this is maybe getting a little off topic, but I've been seeing so many articles lately about how lightning bug populations are declining, and I bring that up because I have this very distinct memory from like 6th or 7th grade. I cannot remember when we had to propose a policy solution, and everybody else focused on some dumb crap. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, oh, they're projecting that in the next 10 years or what have you, lightning bug populations are going to go down if we don't address light pollution. So my policy was like, let's implement some solutions, I don't know, timers or something that improve lightning bug populations. 6th, 7th grade. I only got 2 votes out of the whole class of 30. And I went home and I was crying and I was like, why don't people care about this? And now I'm sitting here 10 plus years later.
No lightning bugs.
I'm like, okay, this actually wounds me to my core.
Yes.
Like that projected something. I was anyway. That's Thank you for bringing that.
Yes.
I be looking outside and I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, all summer we think about it. That's so
everywhere.
crazy. But yeah, I think that's so funny because you think of how I think of Black women in general, like we're just the most innovative, amazing people ever. That's my opinion. But how you were already thinking of something so long ago, and that's how so many things have just kind of trickled down into becoming something. And going into like the next part of that question is just like, so how has your experience kind of trickled into what each of you do personally or in your professional life? I know a part of some of your work is ancestral as well, so we can get into that too.
I can go first. So I think just like naturally following my curiosity with my work has led me into like gardening and stuff and managing the youth programs that I do. So I would say in the work, it kind of led me into like peace. I feel like just working in the garden and being like inside the community kind of just led me to like look at my life and like kind of de-stress and stuff and take the opportunity for that and like just build my connection with nature. So yeah, I feel like that's the short answer.
I can go, so you can come back to your end on your family farm. Okay, so how did my childhood bring me back to how I am, where I am today? So I'd say that the insects I was talking about earlier kind of connect to the biodiversity that I work with today. My background is in wildlife conservation, And again, it's really important that, you know, the birds and the bees and the plants are all present, as well as people should notice that they're there and kind of, like we're saying with the lightning bugs, take stock of if populations are starting to decline. I think a lot of my personal work outside of my 9-to-5 job is a lot of education to encourage people to be curious, encourage people to be respectful and steward whatever local habitats and wildlife that they have in their backyards. And I think at its core, like when I was a kid, like playing with worms was kind of weird and like you weren't always popular doing it. And similarly, being like a wildlife biologist is not the norm in my community. So I think as a child, I kind of got comfortable with doing the things that are not normal for a young Black girl and just being like, okay, I don't care. I'm just going to blaze my path. And, you know, coming into grad school, being one of 2 Black women, Black people, period, in my whole cohort. It's hard, but it's like, I've been here before, you know, this is how we grew up. I grew up. So it's connecting in a different way as well, kind of like psychologically, but also like loving biodiversity. So yeah, that's kind of my connection from childhood to now.
It's funny how being the one and only, I feel like I didn't know what it felt like to be surrounded by community until I became older and started forging my own paths and saying like, oh my God, where are the other Black people? Mm-hmm. Like, I've been surrounded by non-Black people out in the natural world for so long, but I know we out here. Mm-hmm. You know, for me, this need for exploration and to figure out where I'm going, but I may not know the exact route, but I know I want to get up on that mountain. And I'm okay wandering within reason. No helicopters have had to come for me yet. It's the definition of my work. In the work that I do, I started in healthcare and saw the impacts of climate change on, you know, the patients I was caring for in so many different ways. Then I was also a whitewater paddler, the one and only Black person on the river for like 10 years still. And someone was just like, come be a part of this organization, and we're looking to connect more people to the Potomac River, which I think of as my ancestral river, whether anyone else does or not. So I was like, this is probably stupid. But yes, I will go. And I went. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I love protecting nature and I want to do more of it. But I want to do it with other people, other Black people who get it, who are coming from this justice space, who understand why this matters to help. So then I went and found another organization that it came from that space. And then someone said, oh, we don't have a committee for this, but, you know, a few months in, you can go start one. Well, I don't know what I'm doing, but okay. So then I figured it out from there and got into good trouble and like just started creating more things where I saw a need, very Black woman-esque. Mm-hmm. And then ended up where I am now. And even in the work that I do now, it's very much like, where is the need? What is the need that we need to do in the region? What is the need for my team? What is the need for my individuals? And that is where we're going to go. And I may not know exactly how we're going to get there. I'll come up with like 10, more like 20 different routes so that when the first 5 don't work out, we can get there. I'll learn whatever skills I need to learn to get us there, but we're gonna get there. So that like exploration, and I haven't come to my destination yet. And I love it. I never want to arrive at my destination because this need to go and explore and find, and just the beauty of like walking along the path and finding just a new ecosystem that you never expected, or stopping for like 20 minutes to stare at overgrown moss that you have never seen so developed before, but it's the most amazing thing. Like, that's how I live life. And I love it.
So connecting it back to, because I would say that my entry point was not environmental justice. It was this curiosity. It was this love for the outdoors. It was this love for nature. And in hindsight, I connected the dots of this everything I'm experiencing and all the love that I'm feeling and this embrace that I'm getting from nature is also taking place on this ancestral land, and learning from my grandmother and getting to be outside with family. Just those pieces didn't quite connect as I was entering into the field. So I started out doing like more science stuff. But sort of as I figured myself out, I figured out what I was passionate about and what I actually loved about being outdoors and being in nature. I guess the pieces really clicked that I'm particularly passionate about uplifting the work, the stories, the solutions, the knowledge, the passion of communities very much like my own, of people who come from similar backgrounds, similar ancestral connections to land. A lot of the communities I work with, particularly in the U.S. South, are people who inherited their land after one generation, 2 generations, 3 generations, in some cases linking back to the freeing of enslaved peoples. And these are people who set up shop trying to build wealth for themselves and to find autonomy and utilize amazing skills, inherent connections to their environment to live and build healthy families. And a landfill was set up next door because, that's just how racism works in this country. Or a polluting agricultural facility was placed next door and just withered away their opportunity to continue that health and wealth building in their families. And so I sort of see the connections that I had to land and to place, and I see how that was cultivated over multiple generations, and I see that reflected in other communities. And I just want to work with them to bring those stories to light and to connect them to the resources, whether that's financial, legal, or capacity, to get themselves to a place where they are no longer burdened and overcome by systemic environmental racism. So that's looked like working as a journalist in community to uplift those stories, working as an oral historian with this larger vision of tapping into ancestral knowledge and wisdom and documenting that and archiving it, knowing that we can learn from the past, both from the beauty and the hardship of our ancestors, but then also working in finance to try to connect people to money. Try to connect people to capital and try to leverage this unjust and unfortunate capitalistic system in a way that actually brings reparations to communities in need. So those are like the two pieces. They're very separate worlds, but they connect back to this larger, like, getting the communities that look like mine, who have similar backgrounds, and even those who don't, right? Because there are so many folks, Black, Indigenous, Latino, Asian, who are coming from similar struggles and similar ancestral wisdoms and similar connections to nature that we can be uplifting together in solidarity against this unfortunate uniform system of oppression. So I hope that made sense. But all of the pieces, trying to connect all the pieces.
Yeah, all the pieces. I'm hearing like ancestral connection, just curiosity, finding out solutions, being invested in biodiversity. And I think what I really enjoy about like environmental justice or this work is really that is so like interconnected. Like even us being able to be here right now, have a conversation, that is like just a form of us just being able to have storytelling and telling these stories and uplifting ancestral knowledge, but also being able to connect youth to all the opportunities and possibilities of what they can be in this space as scientists, as healthcare facilitators or advocates. And I think I love that it's just so interconnected and there's not just one thing that you have to kind of focus on. In this space, I've definitely evolved a little bit more and I'm starting to enjoy more of the creative parts of it and just really bringing out those stories and those pieces that really mean something to people. So what is something that is really important to you about your understanding and your connection with Black women in nature, but also like other women that you've experienced, other Black women that you've experienced and how you've been impacted by them? And you can like describe characteristics of this person, whatever it is, and how that connects with nature. I mean, you can give metaphors, whatever it is, but it can be about yourself. It can be about other Black women, but how do you kind of tie those things together?
I have an initial thought.
Go ahead, go for it. Yeah.
Just the people I have had the opportunity to work with in the environmental justice space especially I went to school in North Carolina, and North Carolina being the birthplace of the environmental justice movement, I have worked very directly with some of the original organizers of the Warren County protests that launched the environmental justice movement. I literally got to travel to Portland with the mother of the environmental justice movement, Dolly Burwell, and receive an award with her as like one generation to the next generation. And that was just like the craziest amount of imposter syndrome you can ever imagine. But I just like, I feel like I will under describe this, just like the power that I saw in Dolly, that I saw in people like Congresswoman Eva Clayton, that I've seen in some of the other original organizers who are now retired, but still pushing forward the good fight and still finding moments for joy and travel. Like they stand so tall despite being shorter than, in many cases, being shorter than me. And I just cannot help but call attention to, I'm going to call it like that experience, that many years of wisdom. I'm guessing it has to do, like maybe they're so short because the weight of all of that wisdom has compounded upon their shoulders. I'm not sure, but like they are a presence, and it's not intimidating. It's intimidating in the sense that it has me like, can I ever get there as a person who is supposed to be taking up this torch? And so many of them are always like, I just did what was right. Like that's literally their rationale. They're like, that's just what we do. And trying to embody that while simultaneously seeing this vision it's a daunting task, but it's kept me motivated in this work. I think this was mentioned. It's like we are standing on folks' shoulders. Like we are paying homage to the folks that came before us, and they are powerhouses, and they are standing strong still, despite years of no's and failures and hardship, and still finding time to smile and to just radiate joy and power. And I'm just kind of like, okay, how am I going to get there? Are we going to, and that's kind of the goal, like trying to reach that level of like peace and confidence. Amazement. I hope that makes sense.
It does.
I love what you said, because it makes me think of whether it be personally or so many of the Black women who have written on environmental justice or advocacy, but unapologetic for showing up and claiming their space and being who they are. And like a tree doesn't ask permission, right? Like when it's standing strong and tall, it just is. And it exists within the community of the forest, and it doesn't by its presence threaten the other trees. It makes space, able to grow in community, but it doesn't apologize for being this big, beautiful tree that offers so much shade and habitat and nurturing, and the river doesn't apologize for existing, and it cuts through rock in addition to nourishing, like all of these things that I think about in nature. Like they're just there doing. They're doing what they're doing, and by being themselves, they are providing so much life, and they're changing, and they're not static, whether we can see those changes or not. And so I just think about the woman who I have admired, and even if I work with them closely, like sometimes they might be like, I don't know, like, but they don't apologize for just being. And a lot of the people who I have been most intimidated by, or like start off being like, oh my gosh, this person really knows what they want, like, they're often the ones who are just like gonna open doors wide open for you if it's doing the work. So they're not just standing proudly in who they are, but they're also standing in community with others. And that's what I think about in terms of nature, and in terms of like the Black women who have really just impacted my life.
I love that tree and river metaphor. That's awesome. I want to lift up the stories of one particular woman from the stories I highlight with my program, because she's a woman that didn't take no for an answer. In the 1930s, this woman named Sophie Lutterloh wanted to be an entomologist, wanted to study bugs. And she lived in DC, actually. She wanted to work for the Smithsonian Natural History Museum. And at the time, she was in her teens. It's probably pre-civil rights, maybe the 1950s. And so she was a Black woman. I think she may be educated, I forget. But she applied for a job to be an entomologist and to work in the museum center. And they told her to straight up, no, aren't qualified, we don't want you, blah, blah, blah. And they said, well, you can work here as an elevator operator. So similar to your path, just taking the job you can and figuring out your life afterwards. She took that job as an elevator operator, worked for about 20 years, but all that while she was sneaking in to like the curator specimen labs, to looking at these insects, behind the scenes. So much everyone knew about it, and they called her the bug lady around the staff. And after so many years, they recognized that she did know her stuff. She's already contributing to the museum curations and everything behind the scenes. And they actually give her a job as an entomologist in her 40s or 50s. And I think during her time unpacking specimens that other folks didn't get to, I guess, she discovered a new species. So there's a new tick or flea named after her as well. So her story to me is she just did the work she felt called to do, despite it not being her title. So no matter what job you have on the front, you can still do the things that make you passionate, that still impact science. And as a kind of museum curator, she was helping the displays of people to learn about science and bugs that were just passersby, in the museum. So she just did what she needed to do, did not apologize for it. And I just really admire her. She's someone that passed away about 10 years or so ago, but she's a story that I love to tell with people. So thanks y'all for listening to that.
Yes. I love that. Bug lady.
The bug lady.
I think mine would be someone that I met not too long ago, a couple years ago, Zandra Chestnut.
Oh, yes.
You guys
my
know
girl.
her? Recently, we worked together with the Environmental Youth Summit that we put together. So meeting her was just really nice to meet her, and found out the work that she's doing with Ward 7 Resilience Hub. And I think what kind of stuck out to me with meeting her is just how she sees the work that she does is a responsibility. And I feel that's how we all need to feel, and how she sees it as she has children, she has grandchildren. It's her responsibility to do the work and to make these decisions, and to all the work that she's doing with the youth at an older age too. I feel when I get that old, I'll still be pushing and wanting to just advocate and connect with the youth. So I feel that's really inspirational to me.
I love all of the old heads in the movement. I think they definitely impart a certain amount of wisdom, but just care. And I think just multi-generational speaking, being able to connect with people that are your senior by so many years on the same level of just caring for community is so important, because that's one of the simplest commonalities. I might not have lived as much life as they have, but we share that joy in just being able to be there and be in community with people and continue to push forward that work. So I love the multi-generational relationships that we have had as Black women as we do this work, because each person informs me. All of you have informed me in so many ways as well. And I wanted to close us off with just one more thought of, what hopes do you have for future relationships between Black people, Black women, and the land? What do you hope for?
Can I make a quick comment? I just want to comment on what you said reminded me of how many of these women, though amazing, are working until they're quite old. And I'm
rest.
Just stop, please.
I want you to rest.
It's kind of our jobs, and as we're sort of building this community, almost to assure them that we got it, and that they can take that step back, and that they can feel confident that the work will continue, that they will be consulted, that they will be a part of it, but that they don't need to shoulder the burden anymore. So that's not a direct answer to your question, but I just wanted to, because it really bothers me seeing some of these older women, and just as a plug, my oral history project is working on a Mothers of Environmental Justice collection. We have sat down with 14 women across the EJ movement. We're going to sit down with another like 7 or 8. And so many of them are entering their 70s, 80s. And I'm just like, I love you. But
is that like a conversation that you've had with them though?
Like part of the question is, what do you want the next generation to take up? What do you want them to know from this conversation? What do you want them to shoulder? And a lot of them, especially in this current moment, are focusing it around just maintaining resilience at a time when all of the programs are getting shut down. And I think, unfortunately, this current moment also makes it really hard for them to feel like they can take that step back. But we are encouraging them to think intergenerationally so that they know that they're not alone in this, and that and so that they feel empowered to pass the baton. Like it really felt like something else when this specific example is like when Dolly Burwell, I got to go and receive this award with her, and she said, "Sitting right here is the next mother of the EJ movement." I was like, no, that's not going to be me. But she felt confident saying that. She felt she liked me enough and felt confident enough in my abilities to be like, okay, she got it. And I was like, if I can give you that assurance, even if I'm gonna sit there and be like, I don't know, like it's not just gonna be me. That's a heavy burden. But like that's sort of like wherever there are opportunities to assure them that we're gonna do that, it feels important. Anyway, that was not the answer to your question, but it just felt critical to highlight that.
I mean, I think that's one of my hopes too.
Exactly. Yeah. The hope is that they can take a step back and to rest. That they're Black women that need to rest.
Yeah.
I think about, I was just reading this book. It's not by a Black woman, forgive me. It's called Is a River Alive? That just came out, and it was talking about how so many of our views of nature has shifted due to the role of capitalism. And of course, we know that's colonization, white supremacy, patriarchy, all of those systems are intertwined. But it has made us see nature as a resource. And we as humans are not independent from nature. And we as Black women are not independent. And it makes us, we are seen as a resource, right? Human resources. What are you going to give me? What is this coming in the job? What? You need more rest? Oh, you need a sabbatical? We are seen for what can we resource? What value do you bring that is considered valuable to me? Not what you consider valuable, what I consider valuable, or what the corporation considers valuable. And does it matter whether you can give more one day or the other, or whether I am giving you enough back in return? No, because you are a resource without limit. And we will extract as much as we think we can. And even if we don't have to extract as much, our resources will get used to it. So then we can extract more. And so my hope, dream the impossible dream, is that we break these systems that are based in extraction. And I don't think there will be a world where nature or Black women, or in fact anyone else, because everyone is harmed. As long as we are considered resources, everyone else is also in that same boat and is also being harmed. A world where we can show up and be in that gift economy and know that we are humans, that we are part of nature, that we are all within the system, and we live in balance with each other, everyone. So that's my hope.
Wow. Can I comment directly on that really quickly? I'm doing a lot of talking, guys. I'm sorry. But I remember seeing, I don't know when it was, a couple years ago, somebody was highlighting that Charles Darwin's survival of the fittest, like the concept, might not have been as, I don't know, central to the way that nature works as is commonly portrayed. Like there is a lot more mutualism, there's a lot more community, there's a lot more sharing and
symbiosis.
That was the word with science. And so obviously not to say that sort of mentality, that competition doesn't exist, but that nature inherently relies just as much, if not more, upon these symbiotic relationships and upon this sort of mutual benefit and this community as it does on this sort of competition and this cannibalism of resources. And I feel like that ties directly to this idea of like, if capitalism is the always hungry monster over here and community is the sort of opposing force to that, we as a society can actually trend a little closer to what nature, what is natural,
exactly.
which is this building of community. And I think we see that a lot with Black women.
Yeah.
I, like the community, I feel amongst Black women, just it hits a little different. It's a little more intentional. It's a little more solidified, I think. It's a little, Y'all are really good at finding the words. So that was just my quick direct response to that.
Yes. Okay, I'll give Sharon and Mariah some time. Any thoughts?
I can think of, well, for me, my hope for Black women and Black women in nature is really just for us to multiply and be present and omnipresent, like we're saying, in this field. I want the amazing conference, Taking Nature Black, I want that to be like the world. I want there to be so many Black people in this field because we have so many talents and gifts and knowledge and wisdom, and that we do pay homage to our elders and ancestors, so that we need that in this field, in wildlife and environmental justice and sustainability and every kind of environmental adjacent field, to be more Black women. That's my hope.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. And I think my hope is just more along the lines of people being like more open to nature and like the experience of like the natural world. I feel like working with the youth, you know, you get a lot of little phrases of, oh, no, I don't want to do that, or it's not for us. So I just want to see like that more openness and like just open to discovery and like not closing themselves off. It's like, oh, I'm just going to do that because it's what I'm comfortable with. But like, no, you could be an environmentalist, you could be a scientist. Like, yeah, I just want that openness. It's my hope.
Well, thank you guys so much. It's my hope that you guys feel rest and be able to like just rejuvenate whichever way that feels best for you. As we work tirelessly, a lot of us do. I think for most of us, it's not a career choice. Most of this work is really personal, which I think also makes it really special. Like you said, Black women have this it's genuine in how we are able to bring all of our layers, our identity into the space. So thank you all for how you show up in the movement, but also showing up for me today. And that's a wrap for the first one.
Thank you.
Great job.